Chosen one, listen closely. Heaven itself pauses for this moment. You were never meant to blend in with the crowd. From the very beginning, your spirit carried a frequency the enemy could never decode. That's why they built the perfect trap, silent, sophisticated, and disguised as comfort. They wanted you distracted, asleep in illusion, while they harvested your peace. But God, your defender, your watchman, let your eyes pierce through the veil. You have felt it, haven't you? That uneasy stirring when something looked good but tasted wrong. When everyone around you celebrated lies dressed as truth. Yet, deep inside, your heart whispered, "This isn't right." You weren't paranoid, you were protected. The Holy Spirit was already showing you the strings behind the stage, the puppeteers in shadows. They built systems that reward blindness. They called darkness progress, and rebellion freedom. They smiled as they pulled light out of culture, one compromise at a time. But you, O chosen one, you did not fall asleep. When they lured others with glitter and gold, you saw the cage hidden behind the gift. That was not coincidence. That was divine interruption. The enemy designed the snare to catch dreamers, to silence prophets, to drain those carrying heaven's fire. You were on his list. Every hardship, every heartbreak was meant to make you surrender. He wanted your silence, your exhaustion, your agreement with despair. But instead of collapsing, you began to see patterns, the same deceit, repeating under new names. You began to realize that the world had been painted upside down, and truth was buried beneath noise. God stepped in quietly, as he often does. He didn't shout, he revealed. You began to notice subtle shifts, dreams sharpening, intuition heightening, coincidences stacking in impossible patterns. What they called insanity was actually insight. Heaven was downloading discernment. You started asking questions others were too afraid to ask. And the Spirit whispered, "You see, because you are chosen." M6. You didn't stumble into revelation. You were guided to it. Every delay, every closed door, every night you questioned, your sanity was sacred training. Heaven sharpened your vision through isolation, teaching you to recognize truth, not by appearance, but by vibration. You were being refined for sight beyond illusion. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 16, "Behold, I send you out as sheep among wolves. Therefore be wise as serpents and innocent as doves." And that is why the enemy targeted your awareness first. He feared your clarity. He knew that if your eyes ever opened fully, his schemes would crumble. So he surrounded you with noise, confusion, and false voices, all designed to drown out God's whisper. He made distraction a lifestyle and deception a culture, but he underestimated divine timing. When your spirit reached breaking point, heaven released sight. Suddenly, patterns clicked, masks fell, the serpent was exposed. You now understand your discernment is not paranoia. It is prophecy. You are a watchtower in a generation that loves blindness. Every wound you endured became a lens polished by pain, able to see through pretense. You carry holy perception. And that's why darkness fears you. They called you too intense, too spiritual, too suspicious. But that was the voice of the trap, trying to shame you back to sleep. Do not apologize for seeing what others ignore. Discernment is heaven's defense system, not a curse. God entrusted it to you because He knew you'd use it to protect others, not to boast. Now the veil is gone. You're not reacting, you're perceiving. You see how conversations are coded, how systems manipulate, how false peace is sold as truth. But more importantly, you see the fingerprint of God still moving underneath the chaos. Even in darkness, you trace His light. This is your moment to rise, not hide. The revelation you carry is not just for survival, it's for awakening others. Speak what you've seen. Move with conviction. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out as living evidence that deception can be defeated. Beloved chosen one, don't let fear silence your insight. Your vision is proof that God still speaks. Let the fire within you burn brighter than the illusions around you. The trap they built cannot bind you anymore, because now you recognize every wire, every lie, every counterfeit spark. If this message resonates in your spirit, make a declaration. Type 77 inches, the comments below, as your sign that you choose divine wisdom over worldly deception. Like, share, and subscribe so that other chosen ones may awaken. You are part of the remnant awake, anointed, and unstoppable. You have always wondered why you never fit in, haven't you? Chosen one? Why rooms felt smaller when you entered? Why eyes turned uneasy, though you said nothing? From childhood, you felt different, set apart in a way you could not explain. Others laughed easily, followed trends, found belonging in crowds that drained you. But deep inside, your soul knew you were marked for something greater. You were never built to blend in, because blending would have buried your calling. God designed you with edges sharp enough to cut through illusion, your sensitivity to energy, your quick discernment. Your inability to pretend all of it was divine craftsmanship. You tried to silence it once, didn't you? You tried to be normal, to dull your intuition, to stop feeling so deeply. But the moment you did, life became colorless. You were never meant to be numb. You were meant to see. And because you could see, deception could never fully swallow you. Others were swept away by flattery, promises, and convenience. But something inside you refused to settle. It was the mark of the chosen ones, a holy restlessness that won't let you conform. You felt it when friends betrayed you, when love turned manipulative, when your spirit recoiled from things everyone else celebrated. That discomfort wasn't weakness, it was spiritual intelligence. You have been walking through life like a foreigner in a strange land, sensing the hidden motives behind smiles, hearing truth behind silence. People have called you too deep, too intense, too sensitive. But the truth is, you were never built for surface-level living. The depth in you terrifies those addicted to illusion. That's why they left, why they mocked you, why they misunderstood you. But every rejection was a filter. Heaven was protecting you from attachments that would dim your discernment. There were moments you cried out to God, asking, "Why am I so different? Why can't I just fit in?" And heaven whispered back, "Because you were chosen to stand out, not to blend in. You were crafted as a disruptor of deception, a mirror that forces others to confront their truth. That's why your presence stirs discomfort. It exposes what's hidden." As the Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Romans, chapter 12, verse 2, Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve God's will. And that, beloved, is why nothing about you has ever been ordinary. Before the world named you, heaven marked you. Before you were hurt, you were chosen. Before betrayal broke you, prophecy covered you. Every battle you faced was confirmation, not contradiction, of your purpose. The warfare around you has always been proportionate to the anointing within you. This is why the enemy studies you so carefully. He knows your sight is dangerous. He knows if you ever accept who you truly are, the chains of deception will break in places you haven't even walked yet. That's why he tried to make you doubt your worth. He used loneliness to make you question your identity, hoping you'd silence the voice God placed in you. But what he forgot is this: chosen souls do not die in confusion, they awaken in it. You see, not fitting in is not a curse, it's confirmation. The isolation you feel isn't abandonment, it's calibration. God removes you from noise to fine-tune your discernment. That's why you've been hidden, overlooked, underestimated. You are being refined in secrecy so that when the time comes, you'll recognize deception instantly. Remember how many times you felt like giving up, yet every time you reached your limit, something invisible lifted you. That wasn't luck. That was the hand of God preserving his vessel. You carry light too sacred to be extinguished. Every scar you bear is a testimony that traps cannot hold you. You are walking evidence that being different is divine strategy. So stop trying to explain your uniqueness to those who are comfortable in illusion. They cannot understand the language of your soul because it was written in heaven's dialect. You are not behind. You are being prepared. You are not too strange. You are supernatural. You are not alone. You are aligned. And one day soon, those who dismissed you will realize that your distance was not arrogance. It was protection. Your silence was not weakness. It was wisdom. Your separation was not punishment. It was positioning. Chosen one. The world may not recognize you yet, but heaven already calls your name. You are part of the remnant, those who see through deception, who stand firm when others bow, who carry light in secret places. Your inability to fit in is the greatest evidence that you belong to something beyond this realm. Walk in that truth now. Wear your difference as armor, not shame, for what others reject. Heaven crowns what others mock. God anoints. You were never meant to fit in because you were born to stand out, as proof that divine eyes still see through every lie. They built a perfect illusion around you. Chosen one, an empire of distraction disguised as destiny. Every screen, every conversation, every shiny promise was part of it. The goal was not to destroy you quickly, but to exhaust your sight slowly, to make you believe the counterfeit was real, to make comfort feel like calling. They wrapped lies in beauty and called them blessings. But you began to notice the cracks, didn't you? It started small, a feeling that what looked pure wasn't, a voice inside that said, "This isn't the way." You saw people trade their peace for validation, their purpose for applause. You saw truth become unpopular and deceit become entertainment. And while the world danced in deception, your spirit began to ache. You couldn't join them, not because you were better, but because you were awake. The enemy's trap was subtle. He didn't attack your body first. He attacked your clarity. He whispered, Everyone's doing it. Don't be so serious. You're overthinking. His weapon wasn't always temptation. It was normalization. If he could make sin seem natural, truth would seem extreme. And so, he coated rebellion in laughter, packaged emptiness as success, and turned distraction into culture. But God allowed you to see the strings. The moment you felt unseen, heaven was actually revealing what others could not perceive. You saw through charm. You recognized manipulation under charisma. You noticed how words carried energy, some healing, others heavy. That's when you realized this world trains eyes, but God trains spirit. You began to discern the spiritual architecture behind everyday life. The music that shifted your mood, the media that dulled your conviction, the conversations that drained your light. You realized none of it was random. It was orchestration. It was a web designed to numb, to silence, to blind, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verse 32. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Oh, truth is freedom, and that's why deception fears it. When you saw through their illusion, they lost control. When you stopped chasing approval, their influence broke. When you began to pray more than you scrolled, the chains started falling. That's why your awakening shook the atmosphere. It wasn't just personal, it was prophetic. But remember this, chosen one. Exposure always comes before elevation. The moment God opened your eyes, your old world rejected you. You felt lonely not because you were lost, but because you were ahead. Discernment isolates before it activates. God had to pull you from the crowd so you could learn to see beyond it. And now, as you stand between two worlds, the seen and unseen, you begin to understand the strategy of heaven. The trap they built was meant to be your tomb, but it became your classroom. Every lie revealed has strengthened your spiritual muscles. Every disappointment has sharpened your hearing. You don't just sense darkness now, you dismantle it by your presence. Still, the world will try again. The enemy will test your sight, trying to lure you with what once tempted you. But your vision has matured. You don't fall for the same tricks anymore. You see patterns repeating in new disguises. You notice how deception always promises speed, while truth requires stillness. So when confusion comes again, remember what you've already learned. Pause, pray, ask heaven for perspective, not comfort. God will never let his chosen ones drown in illusion. The moment you ask for light, he will reveal the path again. You are not walking blind, you are walking trained. And right now, you must declare that you are not returning to blindness. You must seal what you've seen with your words. Because confession is alignment. Type, I see truth, below. Don't rush past it. Write it as a declaration. When you do, you're not just commenting, you're agreeing with heaven. You're affirming that you will no longer trade your discernment for distraction. That single phrase, I see truth, is a spiritual act of resistance. It tells darkness, you can't fool me anymore. Because, chosen one, your sight is sacred, and the more you honor it, the stronger it grows. The enemy can't blind a believer who's chosen to see. Every time you speak truth, the illusion weakens. Every time you choose prayer over panic, deception loses power. You are proof that awareness is warfare. So stand tall in your clarity. The illusion that once deceived you now fears you. You carry revelation that dismantles confusion. You are no longer prey. You are proof that God still reveals secrets to those who seek Him. Keep walking in truth. Chosen one. The world may still sleep, but your eyes are open, your spirit awake, your purpose undeniable. They watched you at your breaking point. Chosen one. They thought this would be the end. The trap was set. The pressure was perfect. And your exhaustion was their victory. You were meant to collapse beneath the weight. They studied your patterns, your fears, your hopes, your weaknesses, and calculated the exact moment to strike. And when the walls began to close in, they whispered among themselves, "This is it. This is where the chosen one breaks." But what they forgot was that God writes His greatest stories in the language of breaking. The moment you reached your limit, heaven began to move. The world saw you crumbling, but heaven saw you transforming. The trap that was meant to finish you became the forge that refined you. You see, the enemy loves to push you until you're desperate, because desperation makes most people compromise. That's why everything seemed to fall apart at once. Every friend gone, every plan shattered, every prayer unanswered. You thought God was silent, but in truth, He was shifting the stage. He let the illusion break so that your sight could expand. You cried in silence, didn't you? Nights when your heart felt too heavy to beat. Days when breathing felt like effort. And still, something in you refused to die. That something was not willpower, it was purpose. It was heaven whispering, "Not yet. You still have a destiny to fulfill." The prophet Elijah spoke, as recorded in the first book of Kings, chapter 19, verse 12. "And after the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper." Oh, that whisper, chosen one, is what carried you through your breaking point. While storms raged, God's voice was still and close. He didn't shout above the chaos, He spoke beneath it. You didn't survive by strength, you survived by sensitivity. The same sensitivity that once made you feel weak became your secret weapon, because only those who listen deeply can hear the whisper that shifts everything. At your breaking point, heaven wasn't watching in panic, it was orchestrating your rebuild. You were not abandoned, you were being restructured. Every loss created space for revelation. Every wound became a window. Every disappointment turned into direction. The very moment they thought you were finished, you were being fortified. Understand this. Breaking is not failure, it is divine surgery. God was cutting away the dead weight, the attachments, the illusions, the false identities you had carried for too long. You were not losing yourself. You were losing what was never you. When everything fell apart, truth remained. That truth was your essence. The core heaven planted before the world corrupted your name. You thought your tears went unnoticed, but every one of them was recorded in eternity. You thought your prayers bounced off the ceiling, but they were actually piercing through deception. God was closer to you in the silence than He ever was in the noise. Sometimes, strength doesn't look like standing tall, it looks like still breathing when everything tells you not to. That's what you did. You kept breathing, kept believing, even when your hope felt fractured. And that is the evidence of your chosenness. You don't die where others would have. You resurrect. The trap they built relied on your ignorance, but you learned through pain. You learned to recognize manipulation. You learned to discern counterfeit peace. You learned that what looks like destruction can actually be deliverance. And now, you walk with wisdom that can't be taught in calm seasons. It's only born in fire. Your breaking point became your birthing point. You are no longer the same. The person who entered the storm was fragile. The one who emerged carries divine steel in their spirit. You've seen too much to go back. You've cried too deep to doubt now. You've met God, not in temples, but in tears. And though the enemy trembles to admit it, he helped build the vessel that will destroy his own deception, because every attack he sent only strengthened what it could not kill. Every lie he told only revealed how much truth you carried. Now, when storms rise again, you no longer fear them, you understand them. You recognize that pressure is proof of potential. Breaking is the evidence that something new is being born. You are not fragile anymore. You are fireproof. So walk boldly in that awareness. You don't need to prove your strength to anyone. The fact that you are still here is the loudest testimony of all. The trap collapsed. The enemy's laughter faded. And still you stand. And when people ask how you made it, you can only smile and say, I didn't. God carried me. There was a moment, chosen one, when the world went quiet, but something in your spirit began to roar. You had reached the end of yourself. And yet, the whisper of God cut through the noise like dawn, splitting the horizon. You didn't understand it at first. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was simply there. A voice that you couldn't ignore. It came to you in unexpected ways. Through a song that found you at midnight. Through a stranger's kindness that felt too precise to be coincidence. Through a dream that felt like memory. That was how God called you back softly. Like a shepherd calling his lost lamb through the fog. Heaven speaks in subtle frequencies. And your heart is the receiver. That's why you couldn't escape it, even when you tried. You could scroll. You could hide. You could drown yourself in distraction, but the message would always find you. The voice wasn't chasing you to condemn you. It was chasing you to remind you. You had forgotten your sound, your rhythm, your song. The world had layered noise over your melody. But God's whisper came to uncover it again, to tune your soul back to his frequency. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 27, verse 8, My heart says of you, seek his face, your face. Lord, I will seek. And you did. You began to seek not fame, not fortune, but truth. You realized that every material gain fades. But divine connexion remain. That's when everything shifted. Life stopped being about surviving and started becoming about seeing. You started to notice how God speaks in everyday things. A sunset that feels like reassurance. Rain falling when your heart is weary. The way a breeze touches your skin at the exact moment you feel forgotten, it's his way of saying, I am still here. You don't need to chase miracles when you can recognize the ones already surrounding you. When God whispered to you, he wasn't calling you to religion, he was calling you to relationship. He was saying, walk with me, and I will show you what others cannot see. The voice of God doesn't always shout, thunder, it often drips like honey, slow and healing, over open wounds. But here's the sacred truth. When you finally start hearing that voice, the world will do everything it can to drown it out again. That's why you must protect your peace like a precious flame. Guard your time, your attention, your energy. Feed your spirit with things that nurture life. Think of your heart like a lamp. Each word of encouragement, each act of faith, each moment of stillness adds oil to your flame. But fear, gossip, comparison, and resentment, they drain your oil until you flicker in the dark. That's why this message found you. It's not random, it's refueling. Heaven is refilling your oil so that your light burns again. And chosen one, if this message has reached your heart, if it's been like a glass of water to your dry soul, then share that water. Let the stream flow, just as rain returns to the sky, only to fall again. What you pour out returns multiplied. When you like, you're echoing the message across unseen networks of souls. When you share, you're opening a door for another weary traveler to find their way home. When you subscribe, you're anchoring yourself in a steady stream of light so you won't drift in the next storm. And if your heart feels stirred to donate, see it not as charity, but as planting a seed into fertile soil. Every gift keeps this voice alive. Every offering fuels the torch that lights someone else's night. You're not giving to a person, you're giving to a purpose. You're investing in the ripple that will reach another chosen one who still sits in silence, waiting for their own whisper of awakening. Because what you're part of is not a broadcast, it's a movement. It's the gathering of souls who refuse to be deceived, who choose clarity over chaos and truth over trends. Each like, each share, each act of faith, it's not digital, it's spiritual. It's you saying to heaven, I want this light to reach farther. You've been given eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart that still believes. That's a rare gift in a world gone numb. Protect it, nurture it, and when the voice of God stirs again, listen, for every whisper is a wave that leads you closer to your purpose. So tonight, when the world grows quiet again, close your eyes. Feel that same gentle whisper moving through the air. It's saying the same words it always has. I'm still here. Keep going. And when you open your eyes, know this, you are part of something eternal. The voice that called you once will keep calling until every chain is broken and every heart remembers its sound. There have been signs all along. Chosen one, subtle, persistent, divine fingerprints left along your path. They weren't coincidences. They were confirmations. Every moment that made you pause, every repetition that caught your attention, every random encounter that stirred your spirit, it was heaven signaling you are set apart. You've noticed it, haven't you? How certain numbers follow you. Certain words repeat. Certain songs play exactly when your soul needs reassurance. You wake at the same time each night, or find feathers, lights flickering, unexpected stillness surrounding you. These are not trivial things. They are divine breadcrumbs scattered along your wilderness. God doesn't just speak through thunder, He speaks through patterns. When you are His, even ordinary moments become messages, but the world taught you to ignore them, to call them luck or coincidence. Yet your spirit knows better. You've felt the pull too many times to call it random. The signs began when you started praying differently, not for things, but for understanding. When you said, "Show me, God, what I cannot see." the heavens opened. Revelation flows to those who ask not for comfort, but for clarity. That's when the veil began to lift. You started to notice hidden meanings in simple events. The same phrase repeated by strangers, the same dream returning again and again. You began to see the unseen. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Oh, and that, beloved, is why the signs appeared before you fell. God walked ahead of your pain, leaving reminders that when the darkness came, you would remember you were never alone. The signs are not for curiosity, they are for courage. They remind you that every step is guided, even when your path looks uncertain. Some of the signs came as losses. People you trusted disappeared. Doors closed abruptly. Plans dissolved overnight. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. Heaven was pruning connections that would have blinded you later. You may not have understood it at the time, but hindsight now reveals mercy in the chaos. Other signs came as opportunities that terrified you. A voice nudging you toward something greater when everything logical said, stay where it's safe. But the same God who warned you of deception also calls you into destiny. Signs aren't always comfortable. They are invitations to obedience. The more you followed them, the more your discernment grew. What once felt confusing began to form a pattern. You realized that every heartbreak had a hidden map. Every delay, a divine lesson. You were not wandering, you were being guided. But be warned, chosen one, there are false signs too. The enemy mimics heaven's language, flashing distractions to divert your focus. That's why discernment is vital. The true signs of God always carry peace. Even when they challenge you, counterfeit signs create anxiety and obsession. Learn to test the spirit of every signal before you move. You are being trained not just to notice signs, but to interpret them. A true sign from heaven won't flatter your ego. It will awaken your purpose. It will nudge you toward integrity, humility, and truth. When you sense that peace that surpasses logic, that's your confirmation. And when the signs intensify, it means breakthrough is near. Heaven amplifies its language when the enemy increases his interference. So if lately everything feels louder, dreams, numbers, whispers, know this: the veil between realms is thin because God is aligning your next assignment. Now pause for a moment. Think back to all the moments that felt too strange to ignore. All the coincidences that comforted you. All the times you asked for a sign and immediately received one. That wasn't the universe, it was your Creator reminding you that your steps are ordered. Chosen one. If your spirit has recognized these signs, if you know heaven has been speaking directly to you, then respond. Align your faith with action. Let this be your public declaration. Type 888 below. This number represents new beginnings and divine alignment. When you write it, you're not typing a number, you're agreeing with heaven's rhythm. You're saying, I see your hand in my story. Lord, I trust the signs you've given me. That simple act becomes a spiritual signature, sealing your awareness with obedience. Remember, the signs are not just for you, they are through you. Others will begin to notice light around you, wisdom in your voice, peace in your presence, because when heaven speaks to one, it's to awaken many. You are a living sign of divine order. so keep your eyes open. The next whisper, the next encounter, the next unexpected moment, it may not be random at all. It may be heaven saying again, I am still with you. And every rejection you faced, chosen one, carried purpose wrapped in pain. The world told you it was loss, but heaven called it direction. You cried over doors that closed, not realizing those were the very doors that would have led to bondage. God never used rejection to punish you. He used it to protect you. You see, chosen souls are refined through isolation. What others interpret as abandonment is often divine separation. Every person who left you, every opportunity that crumbled, every relationship that turned cold, none of it was accidental. God removed them, not because you were unworthy, but because your spirit was too sacred for counterfeit connections. It's hard to see that when the wound is fresh, you sat staring at messages that never came, wondering what you did wrong. You replayed conversations, questioning your worth. But over time, you began to realize some people were never meant to stay long enough to understand you. They were assignments, not anchors. And when their role in your growth was complete, heaven withdrew them. At first, the truth stings. You feel unchosen, unseen, unwanted. Yet what you didn't realize is that God was clearing the stage for your real alignment. He couldn't bring the right people while you were still clinging to the wrong ones. Every goodbye was a prophecy. Every ending was an invitation to expansion. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 1, verse 5, Look at the nations and watch and be utterly amazed. For I am going to do something in your days that you would not believe, even if you were told. End of those words. Chosen one. Hold the essence of your story. God had to disappoint your expectations to exceed them. You asked for stability, but He planned transformation. You prayed for comfort, but He gave you calling. The loss you mourned was the soil where your future was planted. There were moments you begged Him to let certain people stay. You prayed for reconciliation, tried to fix what was already finished. But the more you clung, the more life drained from you. You were trying to revive what heaven had already released. The Spirit wasn't silent out of cruelty, it was silent out of completion. Sometimes love doesn't look like holding on. It looks like letting go. God had to teach you that release is a form of worship. When you finally surrendered what was breaking you, peace returned. That's when you began to see that rejection had always been redirection. The pain wasn't punishment, it was proof of purpose. Every tear you cried became a river that carried you closer to destiny. Every time someone walked away, you were being positioned for someone who could walk with you. Every loss purified your motives until all that remained was authenticity. You stopped performing for acceptance. You stopped negotiating your worth. You began to live from identity, not insecurity. And now, you can look back and bless what once broke you, because had those doors not closed, you would have settled for less than divine design. The jobs that turned you away, the friendships that faded, the love that rejected you, all of them carved space for God's blueprint. You were never too much. They were simply too temporary. Some hearts cannot hold the weight of your anointing. Some minds cannot comprehend your vision. Their departure doesn't mean you were wrong. It means you were right too soon. The frequency you carry is not meant for every room. That's why heaven kept pulling you out of places that dulled your light. Every season of rejection is a silent graduation. You are being promoted from dependence to discernment. You are learning how to bless and release, how to trust that closed doors protect as much as open ones provide. The absence you feel today will one day be the peace you thank God for. Chosen one. Your heart has become a sacred altar. The ashes of old connections are being transformed into fire that lights your next path. You've learned that solitude isn't punishment, it's preparation. The same God who removed people from your story is about to introduce divine replacements, friendships rooted in purpose, partnerships born from prayer, love that mirrors heaven. So breathe. Stop mourning what was never meant to remain. Trust that your story has not been derailed. It's been rerouted. You are still on schedule. Every no carried God's signature. Every not yet was heaven's protection. You are not forgotten. You are being refined. And one day, when the tapestry of your life is revealed, you will see how every thread of rejection formed the pattern of redemption. You began to see through the masks. Chosen one, the smiles that didn't reach the eyes, the words that carried poison wrapped in sweetness, the offers that glimmered with opportunity yet stank of control. You didn't know it at first, but your discernment had sharpened. You were learning to unmask the counterfeit light. The world around you has always been skilled at imitation. Darkness rarely arrives in obvious form. It cloaks itself in beauty, intelligence, charm, and even kindness. The most dangerous deceptions are not the ones that oppose truth. They are the ones that resemble it. The enemy doesn't destroy through ugliness. He destroys through imitation. And you, chosen one, were born to recognize the difference. You once believed that good intentions equaled good character, that eloquent speech meant wisdom, that spiritual talk meant spiritual truth. But as your eyes opened, you realized how many voices spoke of light yet served shadows. How many hands that offered help came to harvest your peace. How many faces that called you family were secretly counting the cost of your favor. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 12, there is a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death. And that's what you began to see, how the enemy crafts counterfeit righteousness. He imitates kindness to manipulate. He mimics passion to distract. He copies revelation to confuse. But no matter how polished his presentation, the spirit of truth in you detects the counterfeit frequency. You don't just hear words anymore, you feel them. You sense when energy shifts, when motives hide behind flattery, when something holy has been diluted. This gift of discernment is both a blessing and a burden. It isolates you from surface relationships because you can no longer pretend not to see. You can't sit comfortably at tables where deception is the main course. You notice the manipulation embedded in casual conversation. You recognize the spiritual transactions happening behind smiles. And once you see, you cannot unsee. There's pain in that clarity. You wish you could go back to ignorance sometimes, to believe every compliment, to trust every "I'm praying for you." But God didn't call you to blindness. He called you to awareness. You were chosen to be a mirror in a world of masks. Your presence disrupts illusion because it carries reflection. When you walk into a room, hidden things stir. People either awaken or flee. That is the mark of the chosen. It's not your job to expose everyone, but it is your responsibility to guard your spirit. Just because someone uses spiritual language doesn't mean they serve spiritual truth. The serpent in Eden didn't hiss, he reasoned. His words sounded wise, but they led to death. That's how the counterfeit light operates. It doesn't attack with darkness. It seduces with imitation. You are learning that discernment isn't suspicion, it's alignment. It's not about judging others, it's about recognizing frequencies that match heaven's rhythm. When peace departs, it's not always warfare, sometimes it's warning. When joy fades in someone's presence, it's not mood, it's message. The spirit in you alerts you to what your eyes cannot yet perceive. So, you begin to test every light. You ask, does this lead me closer to truth? Or does it drain my spirit? You pay attention to fruit, not form. True light never demands worship. True love never manipulates loyalty. True wisdom never confuses the soul. You've learned that holiness doesn't need marketing. It reveals itself in quiet integrity. The more you discern, the more you realize that deception thrives where discernment is dismissed. The enemy hopes you'll call your intuition overthinking, your spiritual warning paranoia. But you now know better. You recognize that the still, small voice is not your anxiety, it's your protection. And perhaps the greatest revelation of all is this: the counterfeit doesn't only exist outside you. Sometimes the battle is internal. There were versions of yourself built on false light ambition that disguised fear, kindness that hid avoidance, service that masked insecurity. God had to reveal those layers, too, not to shame you, but to free you. When He exposes the counterfeit in you, it's an act of mercy, for only truth can stand before the presence of glory. Every mask that falls within you creates room for authenticity, and authenticity is what breaks deception's hold. So now, you walk differently. You don't chase crowds. You don't crave applause. You understand that validation is the cheapest form of energy exchange. What you seek now is alignment with truth, with purpose, with the unfiltered voice of heaven. The light you carry no longer needs to prove itself. Its purity speaks louder than words. You've seen enough false suns to know that only one light never fades, and that light, chosen one, burns within you, now steady, untouchable, unbending. There was a night, chosen one, when you almost gave in. The world had grown heavy, the air too thick to breathe. You looked at your hands empty, trembling, and wondered if everything you'd believed in was a lie. The silence of heaven felt unbearable. You thought perhaps you had missed your destiny. Perhaps the light had moved on without you. But what you didn't know was that this was the very moment God had been preparing you for. Every chosen one walks through the valley where sight fails, and faith alone must guide the way. That valley is not punishment, it's passage. In darkness, your roots go deep. In silence, your spirit learns to hear differently. You remember that night, don't you? When tears fell and prayers felt hollow, when the weight on your chest was too heavy for words. You whispered, "I can't do this anymore." And yet, somehow, you didn't stop breathing. You didn't walk away. You stayed, that staying broken, trembling, half believing was the loudest act of faith you ever made. The world never saw it, but heaven recorded it. Angels stood, watch, while you wrestled with despair. They weren't waiting to judge you, they were guarding you until dawn, because God knew that on the other side of your breaking, something unshakable would rise. Scripture says in the Gospel of John, chapter 1, Verse 5. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. That verse is the map of your life. You've been surrounded by darkness, but never consumed. You've been wounded, but never wasted. Every storm that tried to drown you only taught you how to breathe underwater. You were learning endurance, not just survival. When you thought you were falling apart, you were actually falling into alignment. God was stripping away every illusion, every false source of strength. The job you lost, the people who vanished, the moments you thought were endings, they were sacred surgery. Heaven was removing what couldn't go with you into the next season. You may not have realized it then, but something changed in you during that night of despair. You stopped praying for rescue and started praying for revelation. You stopped asking, "Why me?" and began to whisper, "What are you showing me?" That shift opened a gate. That surrender became your key. The enemy trembled that night because he saw what heaven already knew. Once a chosen one surrenders completely, they become unstoppable. Pain no longer manipulates you when it becomes your teacher. The same darkness that tried to bury you began bowing to your light. And now, when storms come again, you no longer fear them. You remember that night. You remember how close you were to giving up, and how God showed up in a whisper. You remember the way peace arrived without explanation, how sleep finally came after nights of war. That was the moment you learned the power of divine endurance. You are not fragile anymore. You are a survivor, forged in silence. You carry the kind of strength that doesn't roar. It hums like thunder, waiting beneath calm skies. You've learned that miracles don't always come as sudden deliverance. Sometimes they come as the strength to keep going. When others see your calm, they don't realize it was carved through storms. Your peace wasn't handed to you. It was built through pain. Every scar on your soul tells a story of divine intervention. You are the evidence that grace still interrupts despair. And now, chosen one, you stand as a torch for those still trapped in their own long nights. When you speak, your voice carries authority because it has been tested in fire. You don't just quote truth, you've lived it, bled for it, and risen through it. So, if your spirit feels this message, if you've ever been at the edge and somehow made it through, then declare it. Make it known. Not for show, but for strength. Your words carry power. And when you speak, you remind the heavens that you are still standing. Type, "Still I rise below." Those 3 words aren't just affirmation, they're defiance against every darkness that thought it had you. Each time someone reads them, a spark ignites. It tells the unseen realm, the chosen ones are not finished. Your declaration becomes a signal flare of faith, a reminder that even in the darkest valley, light remembers your name. You are the living testimony of resilience. Every breath you take declares war against despair. Every sunrise you witness is heaven whispering, "You made it again." No, and as you move forward, never forget that the night didn't destroy you, it revealed you. What the darkness failed to understand is that you were never its prisoner. You were its prophecy. You were never chosen to hide. Chosen one, you were chosen to reveal. Your very existence is an exposure of lies. The moment you walk into a room, darkness trembles, not because of what you say, but because of what you carry. You are chosen for exposure, destined to shine light into spaces that have forgotten the sound of truth. From the day you were born, the spiritual realm recognized your light. Even when you didn't know who you were, darkness did. That's why attacks came early. That's why confusion clung to your youth. The enemy saw a threat forming, and his plan was simple: bury you before you bloomed. But God had another plan: to use you as a mirror that reflects His truth where deception reigns. Your life is not random, it's revelation. Everything you've survived has sharpened your discernment. Every time someone lied about you, you learned how to recognize falsehood faster. Every time someone betrayed you, you discovered the power of boundaries. Every disappointment became training in disguise. Heaven was teaching you how to see beneath the surface. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. And that is the mystery of exposure. It doesn't require striving. You don't fight to reveal truth. You simply stand in it. Your stillness, your peace, your refusal to retaliate becomes the evidence that God is moving through you. Light doesn't argue with darkness. It simply shines and darkness flees. You are not here to prove anything. You are here to embody truth. That's why your silence holds more power than another's shouting. You carry a presence that shifts rooms. Sometimes, people grow uncomfortable around you and can't explain why. It's because their hidden motives start trembling in the reflection of your purity. You don't need to expose them. Your light already does. Chosen one. Your calling is not easy. To carry truth is to carry fire. It refines you as much as it reveals others. But remember this: fire doesn't apologize for burning. It simply does what it was created to do: illuminate, purify, and warm those who come close with clean hearts. And now, if this light you carry has ever been fanned brighter by what you hear, if these words have helped you find peace, strength, or confirmation, then let your gratitude become action. When you like this message, you're not just pressing a button, you're saying to heaven, I receive this light. It's an echo that ripples through unseen spaces, reaching others who are still lost in shadows. When you share, you become a lantern bearer. Imagine a cave where countless souls wander in the dark, searching for a way out. Each time you share, it's as if you pass a torch into another hand, saying, here, find your way too. And when you subscribe, it's not routine, it's an anchor. It's you choosing to stay near the flame so that when the next storm rises, you'll still have light to guide you home. Subscribing is an act of connection. It keeps your spirit close to a stream of messages meant to sustain you through your own nights of battle. And if your heart feels stirred to donate, see it not as loss but as planting. A single seed in fertile soil multiplies far beyond its size. What you give your time, your support, your offering becomes oil in the lamps that keep this light burning across nations. You're helping carry revelation to someone sitting in silence, waiting for a word that will remind them who they are. You are not funding a platform, you're fueling a movement of souls waking up from deception, realizing their divine identity. Every small act of support becomes a whisper of resistance against darkness. It says, we will not go blind again. Chosen one. You are part of this unfolding story. You're not just a listener, you're a living extension of the message. Every time you apply what you hear, heaven expands its territory through you. So walk boldly, knowing that your very presence exposes what pretends to be light but isn't. Walk as one who understands that truth doesn't beg to be noticed. It transforms by simply being. And remember, even a candle in a vast cave can rewrite the atmosphere. Your obedience is that candle. Your kindness, your discernment, your quiet faith. They are torches in disguise. Let your life keep shining without apology. Let your light keep exposing without aggression. You are chosen for this, to stand tall in truth, to live as revelation in human form, to prove that no trap can hold what God has already set free. To see truth is a sacred gift. Chosen one, but it comes with a cost. There's a loneliness attached to sight, a heaviness that settles in the heart of those who perceive deeply. When others celebrate what you know is hollow, when they chase what you've already discerned as false, it feels like standing in a crowd that no longer speaks your language. This is the cost of discernment. You asked God to show you truth, and He did, but with revelation comes separation. Once you see, you can't unsee. Once your eyes are open, you can no longer participate in blindness. And while that freedom is holy, it also hurts. Because sight isolates. You begin to notice the distance, not just between you and people, but between you and old versions of yourself. You outgrow conversations, environments, even dreams that once inspired you. The same music, the same ambitions, the same patterns of thought no longer resonate. It's as if your spirit has shifted to another frequency, and the world you knew has gone silent. At times, you question whether the sight was worth the solitude. You miss simplicity, laughter without analysis, connection without caution. But what you carry is not ordinary sight, it's prophetic sensitivity. You are being trained not to escape the world, but to interpret it. The Apostle reminds us in his second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 5, "But you, keep your head in all situations. Endure hardship. Do the work of an evangelist. Discharge all the duties of your ministry." Those words echo through your journey. Chosen one. Endure hardship. Keep your head. Stay steady, because clarity often invites conflict. The more you discern, the more misunderstanding you attract. Not everyone wants the truth revealed. Some prefer comfort to conviction. You felt it when your insight unsettled others, when your presence shifted atmospheres without explanation. People may call it judgment, arrogance, or pride, but what they cannot comprehend, they condemn. You don't need to defend yourself. Revelation always justifies itself in time. Still, the weight is real. You carry more than most can imagine. Seeing through deception means you also feel its residue. The emotions others bury, you absorb. The tension hidden behind words, you sense. You walk into spaces and discern spiritual temperature before a word is spoken. That level of sensitivity is exhausting. You are a vessel of perception, and vessels sometimes overflow. There are days when you wish to be blind again, to love without caution, to trust without testing, to rest without analysis. But you are reminded, blindness may bring ease, but it also brings bondage. Freedom requires awareness. You were called not to comfort, but to clarity. Discernment, though costly, is also the greatest armor. It keeps you from manipulation, saves you from wasted time, protects you from entanglements that drain destiny. Every tear you've shed from knowing too much has been an investment in your wisdom. God has allowed you to feel truth before you can see it, so that deception will never rule you again. And so, you walk this path differently. You've learned when to speak and when to stay silent. You've learned that exposure doesn't always require announcement. Sometimes it's simply walking away without explanation. Silence can be the loudest form of discernment. The cost of this gift also teaches compassion, because once you've seen darkness behind a smile, you stop resenting those who are blind. You start praying for them. You realize that everyone is fighting unseen battles, wearing masks of survival. Your discernment matures from judgment to intercession. You no longer expose to shame, you expose to heal. That is how you know your sight has become holy. When it stops serving ego and starts serving mercy, when it no longer isolates, but illuminates, when your awareness births empathy, not arrogance. You will still feel misunderstood, but even that serves purpose. God hides his seers until their season of influence. The misunderstanding protects your purity. If everyone applauded your sight, pride would corrupt it. So, he lets you remain unseen until the right moment. When revelation can flow without contamination, the path of the chosen is not paved with applause, it's lined with purpose. You are not missing out. You are being prepared. Every silent season, every lonely night, every misunderstood moment is shaping your endurance. Because soon, when others are lost in confusion, they will seek your voice for clarity, and you will guide them not from theory, but from scars. So carry your discernment with humility. Guard your peace, but don't hide your light. You have paid the cost, and heaven will honor the price. Your sight will build what deception tried to destroy. Your voice will bring calm where chaos reigned. And when you look back one day, you'll realize the loneliness of sight was never punishment. It was preparation for leadership. The very gift that set you apart will soon be the reason multitudes are drawn to your light. The veil is thinning. Chosen one, what your spirit has sensed for years is now beginning to manifest in plain sight. The spiritual world and the physical world are overlapping, and you are standing right at the intersection. What others call coincidence, you recognize as confirmation. What they call luck, you know, is prophecy unfolding. You are witnessing a prophetic unveiling. The hidden is being revealed. Truth is stepping out of shadow. And though the process looks chaotic, it is actually divine order asserting itself. God is peeling back the layers of illusion so his chosen can walk in clarity. Lately, you've noticed it. The sudden awareness, the strange acceleration, the sense that time itself is shifting. People are being separated. Masks are dropping, and secrets are surfacing. It's not random. Heaven is reorganizing the landscape. God is calling his chosen into position, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. In the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 28, and afterward, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. Oh, this, beloved, is that outpouring. You are living in the days that prophets once longed to witness. The Spirit of God is being released not just upon priests or prophets, but upon ordinary people carrying extraordinary purpose. That's why you've been seeing through deception so easily lately. It's not paranoia, it's prophetic perception. Heaven is fine-tuning your hearing. Your awakening is not entertainment, it's enlistment. You're being drafted into spiritual clarity for this generation. The revelations you receive are not for boasting, they're for building. Every insight is a tool. Every dream is an instruction. Every conviction is an assignment. But with prophetic vision comes responsibility. God doesn't show you to satisfy curiosity, He shows you to shape destiny. When He opens your eyes to something, it means He's trusting you with stewardship. How you respond determines what comes next. Some of what you see will be heavy corruption exposed. Systems collapsing. People you thought were genuine, revealed as false. Don't let that make you bitter. Let it make you wiser. The unveiling is not to crush you, it's to cleanse the atmosphere around you. Truth always purifies before it promotes. You are not just a witness to this unveiling, you are part of it. Your life itself is revelation. When you walk in obedience, you release light. When you speak truth with love, you break chains around others. Your transformation is heaven's proof that light still triumphs over lies. And though the world feels uncertain, you can rest in this assurance. Nothing revealed will harm you. God doesn't expose to destroy His children. He exposes to deliver them. The same illumination that uncovers the schemes of darkness also protects the obedient heart. Chosen one. This is why your discernment has been tested so severely. God had to train your spiritual eyes before showing you this level of revelation. He can't trust untrained eyes with deep vision. It would overwhelm them. But you have been prepared. Your tears have cleared your sight. Your loneliness has sharpened your perception. Now you can see clearly without fear. So when you begin to notice patterns aligning, when dreams start repeating, when people suddenly show their true colors, don't panic. Recognize that you are standing in prophetic time. Heaven is speaking in layers now. You are no longer learning through sermons alone. Life itself has become your prophecy. And right now, as you read this, your spirit knows it's true. You've felt it in the air, in your bones, in the rhythm of your days. You are being positioned as a voice of discernment in a time of confusion. This is not an accident, it's divine assignment. If your heart bears witness to this, if you feel that stirring confirmation within, then seal it. Let heaven know you are ready to walk fully awake. Type 555 below. This number symbolizes divine revelation and transformation, heaven's signal that change is not coming. It's already here. When you write it, you're aligning yourself with prophetic flow, saying, I accept what you're showing me. Lord, I will not fear the unveiling. I will walk in it. And afoot, because chosen one, revelation without obedience becomes burden. But revelation with surrender becomes power. You are not just seeing prophecy, you are fulfilling it. Walk forward now, with your spirit awake and your eyes unafraid. The unveiling has begun, and you are standing right where heaven needs you most, between what was hidden and what is about to be revealed. You came closer to the edge than most. Chosen one. There was a moment, quiet but sharp, when mercy stepped in and intercepted your fall. You didn't realize how close you were to bondage, how near the net had drawn. But even when you were drifting toward destruction, grace ran faster. You didn't deserve the rescue, none of us do. But mercy isn't earned, it's given. When justice demanded silence, Mercy spoke your name. When darkness built a case against you, mercy interrupted the trial. Heaven didn't simply forgive you, it intervened for you. There were roads you should never have survived, words you spoke in anger that should have cursed your own future, moments when you were tempted to walk away entirely. You flirted with rebellion, entertained despair, even envied those who seemed free of conscience. Yet something, an unseen hand, a sudden heaviness in your spirit, always stopped you, just in time. That wasn't luck. That was divine interception. The ancient words recorded in Romans chapter 5, verse 8, declare, "But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." And that's the mystery of mercy. It moves before you move. It covers before you confess. It redeems before you even understand redemption. You were never lost beyond reach. You were simply wandering within the radius of grace. Every time you thought you'd gone too far, God's mercy extended the boundary line. You see, chosen one, God doesn't wait for perfection to pour out mercy. He releases it right in the middle of your imperfection. It's what keeps your mind sound when confusion should have consumed you. It's what restores your sleep when anxiety screams louder than reason. Mercy is not a concept, it's oxygen for the soul. You may not remember every near disaster, but heaven does. The accidents that didn't happen, the words that could have destroyed you but were never heard, the friendships that ended before they poisoned your peace. All of these were small mercies stacked into a fortress around your destiny. If you could see the invisible timeline of your life, you'd weep in gratitude. Every detour, every closed door, every coincidence that changed direction, it was mercy rearranging your path to keep you aligned with purpose. What felt like delay was divine defense. What felt like punishment was protection in disguise. There were times you wanted what would have killed you, prayed for people who would have betrayed you, begged for things that would have broken you. Yet heaven said no, not out of cruelty, but out of covenant. Because mercy remembers promises you've forgotten. It guards what you can't yet value. And when you stumbled, mercy didn't walk away. It stood between you and destruction, whispering, "Get up again. You're not finished yet." That's why shame has never had the final word in your story. Guilt may visit, but mercy is the permanent resident. You've learned now that repentance isn't groveling, it's gratitude. It's saying, "Thank you, Lord, for stopping me when I was determined to ruin myself." It's realizing that God's restraint is proof of his love. If he had given you everything you wanted, you would have forfeited everything you needed. Mercy doesn't erase consequence, it transforms it. What once felt like punishment becomes wisdom. The scars remain, but they no longer sting, they teach. They remind you that every fall you've survived is a testimony of divine compassion. And this compassion, chosen one, is not just for your comfort, it's for your calling. The same mercy that rescued you will now flow through you. You've been spared to become a vessel of understanding. You'll meet people trapped in the very darkness you escaped. And instead of judging, you'll recognize the look in their eyes. You'll remember how it felt to almost give up, and you'll speak with authority that only mercy grants. You'll say, "I know what it's like to fall and still be called chosen." That sentence alone will break chains in others, because it carries the fragrance of grace. Only those who've been rescued can truly guide the lost home. The closer you came to the edge, the more power your story carries now, because every near fall has become fuel for your purpose. You are not the same person who once trembled in confusion. You've seen too much of mercy to ever doubt again. And so, you walk forward, differently, humbler, slower, yet stronger. You no longer need to prove yourself. You are already proven by the fact that you are still here. Remember this, mercy doesn't make sense, it makes history. And your life, chosen one, is living proof. There is power inside you, chosen one, a light, ancient and fierce, placed there before you, took your first breath. It isn't ordinary strength. It is divine fire wrapped in flesh. You were created to walk as a weapon of light in a world addicted to shadows. That's why your presence unsettles darkness, even when you speak no words. You've noticed it, haven't you? The way environments shift when you enter, the way people either gravitate toward you or suddenly withdraw. It isn't coincidence. Your spirit carries frequency. Light exposes whatever hides in the dark. And not everyone wants to be seen, but that's what you were made for, to illuminate, not to imitate. When you first started walking in this light, you mistook it for burden. You thought being sensitive meant being weak. You didn't realize it was strength disguised as empathy. God hid power in compassion, because love is the greatest weapon of all. Hatred burns fast, love burns forever. That's why your kindness irritates darkness. It cannot compete with endurance. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verse 19, I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. And one, this authority, chosen one, isn't something you earn, it's something you awaken to. It's been yours all along. Every time you resisted bitterness, you exercised it. Every time you forgave when revenge was easier, you wielded it. Every time you prayed instead of panicked, you enforced it. Your weapon has never been aggression, it has always been alignment. The world teaches that power means control, but heaven defines it as obedience. When you surrender to divine will, power flows effortlessly through you. You don't have to shout, your stillness speaks. You don't have to fight with fists, your presence shifts atmospheres. True power doesn't dominate, it liberates. It walks into chaos and brings peace without asking permission. That's who you are now, a walking embassy of heaven. You carry the government of peace on your shoulders. You bring calm to storms that others can't even name. When people come near you, their confusion begins to unravel. Their burdens start to lift, and they don't know why. It's because your light recognizes theirs, and heaven remembers its own reflection. But with this light comes responsibility. Power without humility becomes corruption. And that is the very thing God has been protecting you from. Every delay, every humbling season, every hidden moment, it was heaven shaping your character to carry this power without pride. Because pride burns bridges that light was meant to build. You must understand, your light isn't meant to blind, it's meant to guide. The fire within you is not for destruction, it's for direction. You are the lighthouse in a storm, not the lightning that scorches the sea. You exist to show others the way home. There will be moments when you'll feel drained, when carrying this light feels heavy. But remember, light is never lost. It just changes form. When you feel dim, it's not because your fire is gone, but because God is pulling you into rest so he can refill your flame. Even the sun sets, yet it never stops shining. You are learning now to master your light, to know when to shine outward and when to guard your glow. Not everyone can handle full brightness. Some will mistake your clarity for confrontation, but your job is not to dim yourself to make others comfortable. Your job is to stay authentic, anchored, and radiant. You are not a torch that burns alone. You are part of a constellation. Heaven is connecting its lights across the earth, chosen ones scattered through nations, each one carrying a flame from the same eternal source. Together, you form the pattern of God's promise, a map of divine order drawn across chaos. And as you keep walking, your light grows purer. Every act of forgiveness polishes it. Every prayer strengthens it. Every quiet choice for truth over convenience makes it shine more fiercely. Until one day, you'll realize you no longer fear the darkness at all. Because what you carry doesn't merely resist darkness, it redefines it. You are not here to escape the world. Chosen one, you are here to transform it. Every conversation you have, every step you take, every glance of compassion you offer sends ripples through the unseen realm. The enemy can imitate many things, but he cannot replicate your light. It is divine, deliberate, and undefeatable. So walk boldly in it. Let your light speak louder than your words. The same God who placed this fire within you will guard it until the end. And wherever you go, remember, light never asks permission to exist. It simply shines. There is a crown waiting for you. Chosen one, a crown not made of gold or jewels, but of endurance, humility, and obedience. Every tear you've shed, every battle you've faced, every unseen victory in silence has shaped it. You've been walking through fire not to be destroyed, but to be refined for royalty. The world never saw the process. They saw the ashes, but not the fire's purpose. They saw you bend, but not how heaven was shaping your spine into steel. Every season of pain has been polishing your crown. Every hardship carving new beauty into your soul. You have been sculpted by storms. We find in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, having stood the test. That person will receive the crown of life the Lord has promised." That's the crown you carry now. Not a decoration, but a declaration. I endured and still believe. The weight of it isn't heavy because of pride, it's heavy because of purpose. Royalty always carries responsibility. And now, chosen one, as you stand taller, your light matured and your discernment sharpened. Heaven whispers, share what you've learned. The crown isn't for you alone. It's a signpost for others still crawling through the darkness you've already overcome. Think of your story as a lighthouse on a cliff. When you like this message, it's as if you're polishing the glass of that lighthouse so the beam reaches farther. Someone, somewhere is adrift in the storm. You once knew your light can help guide them home. When you share, you aren't spreading words, you're scattering seeds. Seeds of strength, hope, and awakening. Some will land on weary soil, and one message might be the rain they've prayed for. You never know whose night you're brightening when you pass the flame forward. When you subscribe, you're not just joining a list, you're joining a movement. It's a gathering of modern-day warriors who refuse to let their light be dimmed. Each message becomes another ember that keeps the collective fire alive. In times like these, community is not convenience, it's survival. And when you donate, do it as if you're watering a tree that has given you shade. Every offering, no matter how small, keeps this stream flowing, carrying truth, comfort, and revelation to hearts that are thirsty. You're not giving to something, you're giving through something. You're allowing light to keep moving, reaching, and healing. Now pause for a moment. Picture yourself standing on a mountain, your crown reflecting the sunrise. Below you, the valley you once wandered through stretches wide, the place of heartbreak, confusion, rejection, and testing. It no longer holds power over you. What was once your prison has become your testimony. You've been crowned not because you avoided pain, but because you allowed pain to teach you. You've been honored not because you were perfect, but because you refused to quit. The crown you wear was forged in your persistence, tempered by your tears, and polished by your praise. And yes, it shines differently. Some will envy it, not realizing the cost. Others will admire it, not understanding the wounds it hides. But you will know, you will carry it quietly, not as a trophy, but as a trust. Because true kings and queens never flaunt their crowns, they use them to protect and serve. The time has come for you to wear it boldly, yet humbly. When you walk into rooms now, your presence will speak before your words. People will feel peace and won't know why. It's because you've been crowned with spiritual authority, authority that can calm storms and silence chaos without ever raising your voice. If this message touches something inside you, if it feels like a mirror for your own journey, then let your reflection speak. Leave a comment below. Tell your story. Let your words become part of the living testimony of light. Each comment becomes another jewel in the collective crown of this community, a reminder that the chosen are rising, one awakened soul at a time. Your crown is not for comfort, it's for calling. It reminds you that you were never just surviving, you were being prepared to reign. Not over people, but over fear. Not through control, but through compassion. Not in arrogance, but in alignment with heaven. So, wear it. Chosen one, wear it in humility, in gratitude, in truth. Let the weight remind you of what you've conquered. And when you look in the mirror and see that glow that can't be explained, know this, you're not imagining it. That's the reflection of a royal soul tempered by trials, crowned by grace, and shining for generations yet to come. You've seen the trap. Chosen one. You've watched deception collapse, masks fall, and false lights fade under truth's brilliance. But now comes the harder part, the doing. Vision without action is only admiration. What God has shown you wasn't for curiosity, it was for commission. You've been entrusted with heavenly intelligence, and heaven now says, move. You are not called just to see, you are called to build, to take the revelations that burned in secret and turn them into living testimony. The Spirit does not give sight for stillness, He gives sight for strategy. Every hardship you've endured was a training ground. Every wound, a lesson in wisdom. Every delay, a refinement of timing. You weren't waiting for clarity. Clarity was waiting for your courage. And now, you have it. The courage that doesn't shout but stands. The kind of faith that doesn't panic when plans shift. Because it knows heaven's blueprint never fails. It was proclaimed in the second book of Chronicles, chapter 15, verse 7. But as for you, be strong and do not give up, for your work will be rewarded. The first order: protect your clarity. You cannot fight deception if you allow distraction to dull your focus. Guard your peace like treasure. Every time you choose silence over reaction, heaven expands your authority. The calm heart is the sharpest weapon in chaos. The second order: move in obedience, not impulse. God's instructions may seem inconvenient, but they are always accurate. You may not understand His timing, but you can trust His precision. The Spirit leads through whispers, not crowds. When you feel the nudge, follow it. Even a single step in divine timing carries more power than 1,000 steps in fear. The third order: act with endurance. You are stepping into a season where truth will be tested, where faith will feel fragile. But endurance is not exhaustion, it's rootedness. You are like a tree planted by divine rivers. Storms may shake you, but they cannot uproot you. Every gust of wind that tries to break you only spreads your seeds farther. The fourth order: lead with love. Power divorced from compassion becomes destruction. You were chosen not just to reveal truth, but to reflect the heart of the one who gave it. Lead gently, for many are still blind. They are not your enemies, they are your assignments. Love them enough to tell the truth, but love them even more when they reject it. The fifth order: multiply what you've learned. You have stories, lessons, revelations written in the ink of experience. Share them, not to be admired, but to awaken others. Every testimony is a torch. When you speak, another light flickers alive. You are not called to preach religion, you are called to release remembrance. You are the evidence that God still transforms. You will not always feel ready, but readiness was never the requirement. Willingness was. Heaven moves through the yielded, not the perfect. Every act of obedience, every word you speak, every seed you sow creates ripples beyond sight. You are part of an invisible network of light bearers across the earth, each carrying divine assignments, each strengthening the other through unseen unity. Remember, the true battle is not against people, but against patterns, fear, deception, and apathy. You are here to disrupt them. And disruption doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers peace in places that forgot how to feel it. There will be moments when you doubt your effectiveness, when the silence after obedience feels too long. But understand, heaven works in echoes. Every faithful act reverberates through eternity. You may not hear the applause, but you will see the fruit. Chosen one. These are not merely poetic words, they are strategic blueprints. You've been prepared through delay, refined through disappointment, and anointed through endurance. Now is the time to execute what you've learned. So step forward, not as a wanderer, but as a warrior, not as one searching for validation, but as one walking in revelation. The light you carry is enough. The guidance you've received is sufficient. The God who sent you is faithful. And as you march, remember this truth: obedience is the highest form of warfare. Every time you choose light over ease, you move heaven's plan another inch forward. Every breath of faith is a blow against darkness. You have your orders now. Walk them out with calm authority. Speak with grace. Move with purpose. Shine without apology. For the one who called you has already gone ahead of you. And now, chosen one. The storm quiets. You have come through the furnace and found yourself standing where the air feels different, lighter, cleaner, alive with purpose. The traps that once terrified you now look small beneath your feet. You've crossed through deception and stepped into victory. What once threatened to destroy you has become your foundation. The battles behind you were never about loss. They were about unveiling. Each struggle peeled away another layer of illusion until all that remained was truth pure, steady, and unstoppable. You now see with eyes that cannot be fooled. You hear with a heart that cannot be deceived. The same darkness that once tried to silence you now recognizes your authority. The voice of heaven still echoes. As recorded in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 21, "To the one who is victorious, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne, just as I was victorious and sat down with my Father on his throne." That is your inheritance, not merely survival, but sovereignty. You've been given the right to reign over your fears, to sit above confusion, to walk in mastery over the very ground that once held your chains. You have become what you were always meant to be, a living testimony that truth cannot be trapped. Victory, chosen one, does not mean life becomes effortless. It means that nothing can overpower the peace within you anymore. It means the shadows still move, but they no longer intimidate. You have learned the secret that terrifies darkness. Peace is the loudest form of power. Look back for a moment, not with sorrow, but with reverence. Every tear watered the roots of your wisdom. Every wound became a doorway to deeper understanding. Every rejection shaped your discernment. You were never falling apart. You were falling into divine alignment. The things you lost were never meant to go where you are going. Now you understand that victory was never about winning a single battle. It was about becoming someone who cannot be defeated. The war was always for your awareness. The enemy didn't want your possessions. He wanted your perception. He knew that if you ever discovered who you truly are, you would be unstoppable. And now, you know, you have been crowned, commissioned, and awakened. You no longer pray from fear. You speak from authority. You no longer wait for signs. You are the sign. Wherever you walk, revelation follows. You are light in motion, truth wearing skin. There will still be trials, but they will no longer break you. They will refine you. You'll walk through storms with the calm of someone who knows that the thunder is only temporary. You'll face deceit and discern its source instantly. You'll meet resistance and feel heaven rising behind you like wind in your sails. Your story is not ending here, it's expanding. The very places where you once wept will become wells of wisdom for others. You'll find yourself comforting those who are walking the paths you once feared. And you'll speak with authority because you've been there. You'll look them in the eye and say, "You'll make it through, because I did." Oh, this victory, chosen one, is not about dominance. It's about demonstration. God didn't raise you to boast. He raised you to reveal, to prove that light still wins, that grace still redeems, that truth still restores. Your life has become a living sermon that doesn't need a pulpit. Every breath you take is a proclamation that God's plan prevails. You are no longer running from darkness, you are walking through it, turning every shadow into sanctuary. What once threatened you now obeys you. You've mastered the art of spiritual stillness, the unshakable calm that comes from knowing heaven fights for you, even when you stand silent. And perhaps that's the truest victory of all, peace. The kind of peace that humbles pride, outlasts pine, and silences chaos without a word. You've become a dwelling place of that peace, a fortress built by faith, guarded by grace. Chosen one. If you have walked this entire journey, know this: heaven saw every step. You didn't just read words, you walked through revelation. You stood where fear once ruled and learned that peace can roar louder than chaos. You have become a witness that light cannot be defeated. The world will keep spinning in noise and illusion. But you now move differently. You walk slower, with holy awareness. You speak softer, yet your words shake the air. You carry quiet fire, divine truth glowing beneath every heartbeat. If this message found your spirit, let your response become part of its echo. When you like this, you are adding oil to the flame so that another wandering soul might glimpse the same light that led you here. When you share, it's not a click, it's a candle passed across distance, a whisper of hope moving through screens and shadows. When you subscribe, you are saying, I choose to stay in the flow of truth. It keeps your spirit anchored to words that strengthen, remind, and rebuild. And if you ever feel led to donate, do it, not out of pressure, but as an act of partnership. Every seed you plant keeps this light traveling farther into prisons of fear, valleys of despair, and hearts on the edge of giving up. And finally, leave a comment, not just to be seen, but to bear witness. Write what this journey has stirred in you. Your words may be the sign someone else prayed for tonight. You've reached the end of this script, but not the end of your story. Carry the light forward. Keep the flame alive. The world is darker than it admits, and you, chosen one, are proof that heaven still shines through human hearts.